guys, it's Kelly from paperbeadrollers.com. And while it may be October, for crafters, it's Christmas season. Time to start our Christmas crafts. So today I am bringing you a paper bead Christmas tree garland. It is a piece that you will enjoy year after year with your families. Let's get started. The tools and supplies you need for this project are the 1/4 inch pink paper bead roller from paperbeadrollers.com, white glue, glitter, and diamond glaze. You'll also need a brush and skewers to hold the beads while they dry. Christmas ribbon. It should be at least 2 inches wide and it must be wired ribbon. See how the edge bends and stays bent? That's what you're looking for. It's not absolutely necessary, but I crimped my paper to give it a little more texture and interest. Now, I love this crimping tool that I purchased from Amazon. It's called the Marvin Uchida Corrugator. They have several crimping patterns, and this one is the Wave. Now, I've also seen straight, bubbles, and diamonds. There's a lot out there, so I will link these in the description of the video. Now, here are the paper strips you'll need to make these beads. I sell this template as a digital download at paperbeadrollers.com. So you can go there, purchase, and you'll get an email instantly with the download. It includes SVGs for using cutting machines, and it includes a PDF if you want to print it out on paper and cut it out yourself. Now there are 2 strip sizes for each bead. For the longer bead, you're going to need a strip that is 11.7 inches long, 2.12 inches at one end, and 1.25 at the other. This bead is cut on a right angle, so one side is straight and the other is angled. Second strip is 11.7 inches long, 1.25 inches on one side, and it tapers down to a point. Now you'll need 2 of each of these strips per bead. For the round bead, there are also 2 strip sizes. The length is 11.7 inches, one end is 1 inch, tapering down to 0.5 inch. The other strip is also 11.7 inches long. One side is 0.5 inch, tapering down to a point. You'll need 3 of the larger strips and 1 small strip per bead. Now once the strips were cut, I ran them through my corrugator. The directions on the handle here say to open the handle and stick the paper in, but that just doesn't work for me. I just push the strip between the rollers and start turning the key. And there we go. Now to make this faster, if you're doing a lot of beads, you can do several strips at a time. Just slip each one in, doing a half turn to keep it there. And then once they're all in, you can just run them through. All right, now we're ready to roll, literally. For the wider bead, we'll use 2 of each strips. The first 2, I'm going to stack and roll together. So just put them on top of each other, line them up, slide them into your slot. Turn the roller, keeping the strips as centered as possible. When you're working with corrugated paper, you don't want to pull the strip too tight or you'll pull out the corrugation. Keep it loose as you roll and keep everything as centered as possible. Here at the end, I'm going to tack each end down with glue, again holding them until I'm sure they're firmly in place. When we get to the ends, I'm going to put the glue down on each piece and tack them down. Now I'm going to need to hold these down for a little bit to make sure they stay. The corrugation makes the paper a little stiffer, so it does take longer. Now the small strips are going to be glued on individually. I'm going to put the glue around both of these ends of the larger strips. Then I'm going to put the lower small strip on first and just give it a minute for the glue to get tacky because I don't want it to fall off when I start to roll. Then I'm going to put the upper strip on and give it a few seconds as well. Now that they're glued in place firmly enough, I'm going to roll them together. You'll notice the gaps between the strips are much wider now, and that's okay. You'll also see that as you're rolling these 2 strips, they don't line up perfectly, and that's because, again, we staggered them in line with the previous strips. That's okay too. That just makes for the cool texture on these beads. Now when you get to the end, tack them down. This finished bead should measure about 28 millimeters at the thickest part. It could vary depending on your corrugator and how tight you rolled. Now for the round paper bead. I'll take 3 of these wider strips and I'm going to stack them and roll them together. I'm going to line them up, slide them in. Remember to keep it loose. You don't want to pull too tight or you'll pull the corrugation out. Now it will come out just a little bit, but that's okay. It's really the second set of strips in both of these beads that are most important because they're the most visible. Keep everything as centered as possible. Okay, here at the end, I'm going to put the glue down on each of the pieces and tack them down. Again, gotta hold them down a bit to make sure that they stay in place. Remember, this bead only has that one smaller strip. I'm gonna place this at the joint of the first end, so like the highest of the 3. I'm gonna put some glue here. Line up the small strip as straight as possible. Again, gonna let it sit so it gets tacky. That way it doesn't slide around on me. This is especially important because I'm rolling this looser than normal. Okay, once it's ready, I'm gonna lightly roll it around the bead. This is the most visible strip on the bead, so we really want these corrugated waves to stay in place. Okay, I'm going to tack down the end and this bead is done. So this bead, when it's finished, measures around 26 millimeters. Again, just depending on how loosely you roll. And now it's time to glaze. The core of these beads is so large, I'm using 2 large skewers to hold my beads in place. I'm just going to brush on my diamond glaze, making sure to get it in all the dips and the holes the corrugation makes. Now you don't want so much that it's going to drip out like crazy as they dry, but you do want to cover all those areas. Now that I have both beads covered, I'll sprinkle my extra fine glitter over each bead. Now you can use whatever size glitter you want for this. This is just what I had on hand, but it doesn't matter. You can use larger glitter if that's what you have. I'm going to let this dry and come back for a second coat. Okay, it's time for coat 2. Now the second coat will seal in the first layer of glitter so it will never fall off. Now, if you watched my earlier video about glitter, you'll know that you can use several methods to apply it. I'm going to seal in this first coat and then I'm going to shake the second coat on top of the glaze. Now that means the glitter is going to fall off if it's touched too much. As this is a Christmas decoration and not jewelry, I'm okay with that. For this project, I really like the look of the raw glitter, and I'm willing to have a bit of messiness to get it. Now we'll let this coat dry, and we'll have one more glitter application to go. I decided I wanted a more finished look to the ends of these beads, so I'm going to dip the ends in glue and glitter. I've poured white glue into this small dish and glitter into another dish. Now I'll take each bead and carefully dip the ends into the glue. If the glue covers the bead hole like this, use a skewer to break the bubble before you dip it in the glitter. I'm pressing the glued end right down into the glitter. Now this is going to push the glue line up a bit, and it's going to give it this look of being edged in snow. In fact, while I was doing this, my husband walked over to watch me. He goes, "Hey, that looks like snow." I'm like, "Yeah, it does look like snow." I love it when they appreciate what we do as crafters. Now this is also going to make your glitter line a little bit wider than where you originally applied the glue. If you prefer to have a straighter look to your edge, you can just sprinkle the glitter onto the glue rather than pressing it into the glitter. All right, and once this dries, we'll be ready to string these beads on our ribbon. So I have 25 feet of ribbon and I have about 60 beads. Now math is not my strongest suit, but I did figure out if I can use about 3 beads per foot, I should be able to cover all of the 25 feet. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the center of my ribbon. This is so long, I don't want to have to pull the beads along all 25 feet. So what I'm going to do is start in the middle and work out to one end and then go to the other end and work out towards the end. So I'm going to string one side of the ribbon and then flip it around and do the other side. I'm going to set this ruler here to get my spacing right. Now it's going to be approximate. I'm not going to be super crazy about getting exactly the spacing in 1 foot because it's not going to matter once it's on the tree. I'm going to fold my ribbon over on each side and then in half. This will make it small enough to fit through the hole in the bead. Now I just string on my beads. If you have trouble getting the ribbon through the bead, you can use a skewer to push the ribbon through. Now once I've pushed them to the center, see, here's where I mark the center. I'm going to arrange my beads on about 1 foot of ribbon. So what I'm going to do is separate all 3, and then I'm going to like blouse out the ribbon in between the beads so you can see the berry pattern. There we go. Now I'll do the rest of the beads the same way and we'll see how it looks. And there it is, a pretty ribbon garland festooned with paper beads for your Christmas tree, a decoration that will last for years. If you enjoyed this project, hit like on the video and subscribe to my channel for more project tutorials. Happy rolling! And don't forget to visit me for all your supplies at paperbeadrollers.com.